and welcome back to Noona's Noonchi, where I do a deep dive into some of your favorite K-dramas from a mental health perspective. Let's talk about being a student of your parent. In another episode, I talked about being a student of your student. Well, kids, your age, I'm assuming teens to older adults, kids, you have parents, this is for you. How to be a student of your parent. Episode 4 of Reply 1988. That episode has a lot of stuff. I'm sure I talked about it in another episode, but I want to specifically talk about the hurt that Chungwan's dad experiences because of his family. He is a quirky fella. You know, his characters, I would say, definitely not like the typical Korean dad that you would imagine and the typical Korean dad that you see in K-dramas. He is very expressive. He's weird. He loves greeting you with Tuksan and him have a special greeting. I think it was trending back then, where he'd be like, Kim Sajang or So Sajang. Well, he would greet his family that way and they would completely ignore him. Now, Tuksan would humor him and do it, but his sons, his wife, they would just stare at him going and walk right off. I mean, if I could act it out, it's hurtful. So he would go like this, and there's a sad scene in episode 4 where he's like, Kim Sajang, to greet his son, and just the son just walked off, stared at him, as kids do, like, you're weird, dad. No, I don't want to engage. Leave me alone. Yes, you get that from your kids, right, parents? Yeah. And then he walked right off, and that's sad, and I think that was the beginning of where he was starting to feel hurt. Already felt that way, but he shows it in episode 4 where he starts disengaging from the family. Before that, he's very engaged with the family, wanting to give them these sweet Italian treats, talk about making pasta and doing all these things that you see, really treating his wife well, I think, you know, and again, there are flawed characters everywhere, but him, he's really engaged, not the typical dad. Then he gets hurt, and then he disengages and does not talk to his family for a few days, and we see that, okay? And there's a scene where the whole family sits down. By the way, they start realizing, the dad's acting weird, he's disengaging. The wife starts trying more to engage and asking him, you know that whole reversal, like you realize you hurt somebody and then you try to make up for it without saying sorry. That's what's going on. Kind of funny, typical of the culture. Actually typical of many cultures where you know that you did something wrong and it's hard to say sorry, so you try to make up for it in actions. You see that. Chungwan goes to the neighborhood counselor, Tong Young. Love his character, right? And I'll maybe break down his character because I love it so much, but he's reading this magazine, his face is behind a book. Chungwan comes up to him as a friend and he's like, so my dad hasn't been talking to us for a few days. Right? And then Tong Young's like, yeah, because it's because of you or your mom or your brother. And then love Chungwan's look like, okay, yeah, you said it. You hit the nail on the head. And I think that's really important because Chungwan already knew why his dad wasn't talking to the family, right? This is it, folks, here. Student of your parent. I want to say, kids, you generally know perhaps when you've done something wrong, okay? Or maybe hurt your parents or literally did something that you know that they wouldn't like, right? I know you know that. It's not like it's purposeful, but sometimes you could working harder at being that kid that your parents want or to connect with them. Well, in that very moment, the father was hurt because he was trying to connect with his kids and his wife and they didn't engage with him. So Tong Young gives us very wise feedback. And the word here is accept, A-C-C-E-P-T, accept him. Now the direct translation in the show was accept it. I would say accept him. And then Chungwan's like, huh? You know, that look of, what? What do you mean? And you see Chungwan's face smiling saying, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Accept him. 받아줘. It's almost like look out for him. I think that's how I would translate it. Look out for him. Accept your dad. The dad's quirky. So guess what happens? Chungwan takes that feedback, that advice, because he wants his dad to talk to him, to talk to the family. So despite the fact that they ignored their dad and really didn't care and thought he was weird, yes, that happens. But at the end of the day, they didn't like the way that their father disengaged with them, so they wanted him back. So Chungwan walks in, and the dad, thinking is actually Toksun, the neighborhood girl, he turns around and he's like, Kim Sajang or So Sajang, and then he realizes, wait, it's my son. Now in that moment, because he's done that before, the son just would walk away. But in that moment, guess what Chungwan does? He does it too. It's funny because Chungwan looks super awkward doing it because it's not him. But what a great moment. And they finish that greeting that the dad has done, quirky greeting. And the son leaves saying, hey, I'm gonna go out hang with my friends. And the dad sits down and continues eating his ramen. but happily. That's a key scene in episode 4, and the wife who knew that he was hurt and kept trying to make up for it, the fact that they neglected him, ignored him, didn't accept his quirks, smiles as well because she sees what the son did to his dad to make him feel better. Tong-young's advice, accept him. Student, if you want to connect with your parents because you want to feel accepted, right? You're always saying, my parents don't accept me for who I am. I want them to listen to me. Guess what? I need you to do that for your parent as well. Reply 1988, episode 4. Let's talk about episode 5, Reply 1988, as well along the same lines of being a student of your parent. The mom, Chunghwan's mom, comes back from a trip. Now, as the boys, it's 2 boys, right, and the dad, they're on their own at home, and they're just having fun. They're putting that bibimbap in, mixed rice bowl in that big bowl, eating it, right, making a mess. I mean, their family room looks horrendous when they get the call that the mom is on her way back. They're like, oh my gosh, we need to clean up, as any husband and kids would, right, to have a clean house when the mom returns. However, now let me tell you a side note, when I go somewhere on a trip, I do prefer coming home to a clean house. Yes, okay. I want to point something out typical to the Korean culture, Asian culture. Student of your parent, parents/mom needs to feel needed. I actually tear up when I see Tok-sun as an adult narrating this scene, saying, again, Chungwan goes to Tong-young, neighborhood counselor, yeah, what do we do about my mom? She comes back and, basically he's talking about what they did because Tong-young's like, what'd you do? Well, we cleaned up the house. We want to make sure that we showed our mom that we could be on our own. And he's like, duh, that's not what you do. So he keenly was astutely aware of what the mom needed. Guess what? I love her reaction when she looks around, sees everything taken care of. They ate all the food, everything's cleaned up, and you see her shoulders fall. Okay, well, I guess they didn't miss me at all. They didn't need me. Student, to be a student of your parent, how do your parents show their love to you? I need you to look at that because that's what Chungwan was trying to figure out. Hey, why was my mom acting this way when we did all the right things? And so to show and prove that they do indeed need their mother and they want her to feel needed, Chungwan did funny stuff. Burned his older brother's hand, and she came running going, oh gosh, you guys can't handle anything. They broke the heating thing, the heating cement thing, and then she had to come running to clean it up and knew that, oh my gosh, I knew it, you guys always do this. Just seeing in her face, she felt empowered. Moms need to feel that. Now, why am I sharing this to be a student of your parent? This is specific more to the Korean culture, to the Asian culture. The understanding the cultural conflict here, the cultural differences. Sure, as Americanized moms, we may not want that. We want a clean house and all that stuff, right? Kids to be more independent. In an Asian culture, Korean moms, that's how they feel needed. And that's what helps them feel connected to you. That's their way of showing love. Showering you with food, feeding you till you're like so full, wanting to do this stuff that could be stifling. I need you to understand that. Perhaps there's some conflict going on in your family. You're like, what is going on with my mom? Why is she acting this way? Why is she acting 삐졌어, hurt, saying these little snappy things? You know how moms do that? They're like, they act snappy, they say things, they snap at you and you're like, what? What just happened? Well, Chungwan reversed that. And this is the scene that I want to shade that I absolutely love to bookend it, where the dad, everybody understanding the dynamic by this point, right? Chungwan going ahead and showing the mom they need her by messing things up that the dad did, that the older brother did. The funny thing where he couldn't find his clothes, made a mess of things, and she quickly found it for him. Scolding, but also feeling like, hey, I am needed, thank you. And then Tok-sun in her narration says, as you mature, if you're able to show your mom, she said mom, but if you're able to show your mom and dad how to say thank you and I love you, do it. That is what they need. If you're an adult child watching this and you have aging parents, they need that. They need to hear, thank you, I love you for all the things you've done, the wisdom you've passed on. This is something to think about. This is to build the family system. But lastly, that one scene where the dad, they're drinking, having fun, and how the mom shows her happiness is when the dad says, yeah, honey, I realized when you were gone, we're all trash without you. 쓰레기라, 쓰레기. I love that. I mean, I'm not saying kids for you to say that to your parents. Hey, we're all trash without you, but maybe you find a way of saying it in your own way. We really need you. When you're gone, you know, the household goes to pot. Now, I have heard that from my husband. It does feel good, right? Do you, teenage kids, when's the last time you said to your parents, thank you for helping me with the laundry or picking me up from school or doing so-and-so or knowing that you go out of your way? This is how to be a student of your parent, again, for connection, to really work through that angst that you may both be experiencing on both sides, why there's hurt, dejection, you know, those feelings of anger that come up when you're not feeling appreciated. It works both ways, y'all. So I want to say, episode 5 shows that, the more the cultural angle of how a mom needs to feel needed. So if you can do that, make your mom, your dad feel needed. They do need that. They do need that, especially in our culture. Chungwan's dad feeling neglected and ignored for who he is, and then Tongyung telling Chungwan, hey, accept him. So student of your parent, accept your parents. That's easier said than done, but what I'm trying to say is take it into context, take it with a grain of salt too, of understanding what that looks like in reference to your family and your life.